Hi, and welcome to the Unhinged History Podcast, the podcast where two compulsive history downers, destroyers, consumers of memes research history that we've only recently learned about or might have been on our list to learn about, and then come forth and tell each other the story we've only recently learned. I'm host one, I'm Theresa, and that
I'm Angie.
she's host two. And
I
you've
am.
decided to join us. All right, welcome. Last week, Angie took the entire story to give me a time off so I could just sit back, relax, and do some needlepoint. And this week, I've decided to do the whole thing. Angie, I
I am
would
not going to do needlepoint.
I would tell you to take your headphones off, but I did provide a hell of a sizzle in the beginning to kind of hook you because it'll get
Okay.
real dry and then it'll come back. It won't get
Okay, I'm here
dry.
for it.
All right, my sources. PBS documentary The Poison Squad. Eater, we owe food regulation to a 19th century chemist who poisoned his colleagues by Jaya Saxenia. Podcast, Milk Street, The Poison Squad. In 1902, why 12 volunteers eat poison with every meal. Podcast, Taste of the Past, The Poison Squad founding the FDA.
You're the worst.
Just you wait, Henry Higgins. Okay, so here's the sizzle reel to kind of introduce us. At the turn of the 20th
Oh,
century,
you mean the
what?
sources weren't the sizzle rule because
No,
that was enough?
no.
Okay. Okay, go.
At the turn of the 20th century, American food producers, they're getting away with the equivalent of highway robbery because they're putting just about anything in the food. And they do. Milk alone is full of chalk and formaldehyde.
Oh, so it's good
Now,
for your bones.
it's good for
Chalk?
something. Chalk.
That's so gross.
Canned food has salicylic acid, borax, copper sulfite, you know.
It's
Food
the
pro
things you want in your food.
Right. I mean, don't you just keep that in your medicine cabinet just to sprinkle over your toothpaste?
Oh, I do. You don't?
I'm using arsenic.
Oh, okay. I've heard
Yeah.
that's great too. Yeah.
Yeah. Producers sold corn syrup and they kind of dressed it up as honey. They also sell colored lard as butter. And the great news, there's no laws or consequences for this false advertising.
And do the consumers not have it figured out? Like, do they let it happen?
They have no idea.
I feel like butter that's not butter doesn't taste like butter.
You'd say that, but yeah, I mean, I feel like I'll get into it. I'll get into it.
Okay.
Now, consume. Okay, so first off, there's a man named Dr. Harvey Wiley. Now, he's a chemist at the USDA. He spent years researching mislabeled food, and he realizes that consumers have zero idea of what they are putting in their body. And nobody understands the long-term effects of these additives. So he would later create what he called, or what was called the Poison Squad, which is a group of young men who voluntarily consume these additives so that he can examine all of the side effects, right? They become a pop culture sensation. They're inspiring poems, minstrel shows,
Of course.
because there's nothing else going on in the time.
I love this for us.
Eventually, this would get us to the 1906 Pure Food and Drug Act, which would lead to the creation of the FDA. Now, okay, again, this is still the lead up. As we're here, the preservatives that we have in food are literally lethal. There's,
Oh, I was unaware.
I mean, because here's the thing. We think about like the whole make America great again. We idealize the past. We idealize what our grandparents were eating.
I don't because I like food the way it is.
I mean, we just assume farm to fork was a shorter distance back then.
I don't think it was.
I think because you might understand this, because we have what was referred to as the milk scandal, and this is where thousands of people, mostly children, are poisoned. Now, from a business standpoint, it seems like this would be a bad idea and probably pretty bad for milk producers. Because you're wondering, like, well, if it's bad for milk producers, just why would you be adding so many dangerous additives? Now, they're adding milk or additives to milk because it's profitable. Now, I had to look
Oh,
this up. Milk at this time was already being pasteurized. So we have that
okay.
going for us. But we lack standard refrigeration, right? We don't have the refrigeration trucks. We don't, okay, so we're having some issues there. Now, in the case of milk, there's one of the ways that both dairymen and breweries could partner together and make extra product was to take the spit mash from the swill from fermenting for making alcohol, and then they would give it to the cows as food because, I mean, it has grain in it.
Oh,
Now, of
okay.
course, this was awful because it's horrible grain, but it's cheap. And so the dairymen buy it. Now, this puts a little bit extra gold in the brewery's pockets, so they're excited. But you end up with this non-nutritive milk.
Non-nutritive is the what's the word I'm looking for? Is an understatement, I think.
Yep. It also destroys the health of the cows as it produces this horrific milk. Now, not only do they take this milk, they also water it down and then they'd re-whiten it with chalk and plaster of Paris. And they don't care about cleanliness. So the milk's teeming with bacteria.
Oh.
So they kill the bacteria with formaldehyde.
Oh. Oh, so they care a little bit. Okay.
I mean, they're doing what they can. Now, formaldehyde ended up becoming famous after the Civil War. It's cheap, it's synthetic, it tastes kind of sweet like. Now,
I never needed to know what formaldehyde tasted like. Thank you for that.
hmm Um,
Yeah.
now, now with the formaldehyde, your milk lasts a long time, and the formaldehyde disguises the taste of the rot even as it's rotting. So, profit,
Okay,
profit.
I need you to know, I don't know if you knew this before you started this. I hate milk. I don't I it grosses me out to no end. If I drink milk, it's chocolate milk, and that's pretty much it.
But wait, there's more.
Of course there is.
So, at this point in history, there's no public health service. So, we have these thousands of kids dying. But the problem is, you can't prove anything. Like, you can't directly say, oh, it was this.
And how would you know?
You wouldn't, because everybody is poisoning all of the food. So everything
This is
errs
so
on the side
gross.
of the corrupt manufacturer of the 19th century because there's no safety regulations and there's no powerful advocate to say, hey, it was the rotted meat in the tinned can that killed your kid.
Mm.
So, yeah, there's no requirement for labeling. The labels,
What? Oh, how come mom? Okay, I'm sorry. When you said rotted meat in the tin can, how you're opening the tin can, you're getting ready to make the sandwich or whatever. I know
yeah,
food was different back
yeah,
then,
yeah.
so it might not be a sandwich in a tin can, but whatever. You're and the mom doesn't like, I don't know, notice that it's gross.
Well, okay, so first off, all of the food is gross, has always been gross. How do you know it's bad? This is Tuesday for you.
Hmm, I hate this. Okay, go.
And besides, like I said, if you're putting formaldehyde in it, it tastes sweet-ish, and then you don't, it holds certain things like boric acid or borax will firm up the meats or firm up the milk and get kind of reconstitute it to where even though it's decomposing, it doesn't look like it.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now, our labels today are kind of inaccurate, but we do have something. We have something, right? But now you compare what was happening at the same time period in Europe, the European system was precautionary. Like it's like, oh, this appears to be dangerous. Ixnay on the whatever A is an A at that a food. Now, the American
So they've
system,
always been above this. Like,
they have been.
good for them.
America, we're more, but did you die?
Yeah, we are.
Now, if you're not actively dying and able to prove cause and effect, we're gonna let it go. We're gonna let it slide. Let it ride. Roll the dice.
Yeah.
Now, we have a lot of food additives that we don't understand, but we were buying them and we buy them because they're inexpensive and we're on a limited budget.
Okay.
And at the time, people were kind of like, well, you can't get all holy roller about processed food because that's all that some people can afford, like you and your privilege and your white ivory tower.
How dare I want Wonder Bread?
Exactly. So
Okay.
now interstage left. Harley Wiley is born October in 1844. Now he grows up in a log cabin in Kent, Indiana, in Kent,
Rochefoucauld.
Indiana. He's about 100 miles away from where Abe Lincoln was born. Abe Lincoln, a couple decades older, but these are things. Now, age 6, Wiley was milking cows to, nope, age 6, Wiley would lead the milk cows from the barn for the daily milking. And then at 10, he was driving a plow. So he grows up on this small family farm and he got to intimately know all of the food and where it came from.
I feel like he had the best bet.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
He ended up with a very, we'll see this later on, that he comes up with a very binary view. There's real food and then there's fake food. There's no in between.
Agreed.
Now, Harvey's father, Preston Wiley, he's a farmer, he's an itinerant evangelical preacher, and that's going to be important later.
Okay.
He was also a conductor on the Underground Railroad, and this causes Harvey to grow up with this passion for social justice.
Yes. Love this.
1871, Harvey earns a medical degree from Indiana Medical College, and then he receives a degree in chemistry from Harvard.
Dang, girl. Love this for him.
He's doing good. Then 1874, he gets accepted to Purdue to be their first chemistry professor.
Wow. Okay. Okay. He's doing the thing.
He is, but he hated it in the classroom and he preferred the lab.
A nerd.
He's kind of a nerd. He's kind of an introvert when I'm honest. Boy just wants to
Love
do his
this.
thing. So 1878, he takes a sabbatical in Europe and he finds himself on the cutting edge of food chemistry. Now, in Europe, they are obsessed with ferreting out the chemical additives in food because Europe as a whole is pushing back on this entire process.
Good.
Now, this is you kind of zip back a little bit. 1860, Britain had passed a law to limit the chemical adulteration of food after a series of deaths was caused by chemical additive, and this stirs up public outrage. The worst case of this was when 20 people in a small town died from arsenic-laced food coloring in candy.
Oh,
Because
so that's the thing. So
arsenic in
red dye
candy
number
coating.
27.
Well, I mean, but this is a little worse because they're using arsenic because it like would make the candy coating a little bit shinier.
Okay.
So there's that. And so Britain's like, maybe we should fix this. And all of Europe goes, oh, I like what you're doing over there. Now, 1881, France banned salicylic wine, France banned salicylic acid in wine. And this was after French chemists sounded the alarms about its toxicity. But salicylic acid in wine was being used to kind of preserve it, keep it fresh. But now they're like,
Okay.
oh, we could do? We could ship the wine with salicylic acid to the States because they could drink it. The wine will be technically fresh, but we won't give it to our people.
Okay. I mean, honestly, we probably deserved it.
I mean, this is capitalism at its
Yeah.
finest. This
Yeah.
whole story is capitalism capitalizing. Now,
Doing its thing.
in Europe, there's tons of restrictions on food coming in from America because they don't trust it. And why would they?
Honestly.
Now, in this capitalistic marketplace that we've got, it's basically buyers beware, and companies are lying about what is in their products. And like advertisements are just full-blown scams.
Okay.
It's 1881 still, and Harvey Wiley is back to being in relative obscurity in his lab at Purdue. He's fixated on testing food products. It was earlier that year that the Indiana Board of Health asked him or tasked him with testing the purity of honey and maple syrup. And he collects samples from all across the state. 90% of them are fake. Most of the honey is just tinted corn syrup with a little hunk of honeycomb in the center.
Okay.
Now, he realizes that if this is happening in Indiana, it's happening nationwide.
Right.
This is all occurring during what is considered the second industrial revolution. There's advancements in coal mining, steel manufacturing, trains are moving goods and people from one end of the country to the other faster than ever. The cities are growing and producers are trying to figure out how to feed all of the workers in these cities.
This
So
seems fair.
there's a
Yeah, okay.
lot happening in this whole thing. It by 1890, the Chicago stockyards are processing 9 million head of cattle a year.
Oh my God, that's insane. This is where hippos for dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, they're using the railroads that they would grow cattle in the Midwest, process it in Chicago, and then use trains to transport it to New York City. But
Okay.
they needed to keep it fresh without significant refrigeration for long periods of time.
Oh,
Here we are now. So companies they're turning to the chemical industry to try to find preservatives like copper sulfate and formaldehyde, anything they can to keep the meat good. Good in
gross.
quotation marks. So Wiley returns from Europe. He's bought the state-of-the-art food testing equipment that he gets there, and he starts to go to work with a passion.
Thank him.
Now, Wiley had zero qualms with companies putting borax in food, but he did believe that, maybe put it on the label. Maybe just tell people what they're eating.
Yeah. At worst, it wouldn't hurt.
Right. Now, he's like, look, this is tasteless, this is odorless, you can't see it. So people have no way of knowing if their food's been perverted.
Fair. Yeah.
So he starts doing this public outreach. He starts speaking in churches and saying that people are being cheated, and he's demanding that companies use labels. This pisses off the food manufacturers.
Shocking.
The makers of fake syrup and fake honey, they want their secret safe because capitalism.
Honestly.
So, tried and true handbook, cue the smear campaigns in the public press.
Of course.
When it comes to the honey, even the beekeepers are pissed off at Harvey.
Why? They're not getting to sell their honey to him anyway.
You would think that, but the ads in the paper claimed that they've been lied to by Wiley. Now you'd think that they'd be thrilled because it's like, hey, look, don't buy the fake stuff, buy the more expensive stuff that's actually real.
You would
But
think, yeah.
any news is bad news for them. And I'm like, what? But they're exposing the charlatans. Like this should
Yeah.
be a good thing. Meanwhile, at Purdue, Harvey Wiley's actions make the faculty uncomfortable. And 1882, just a year later, after coming back, he realizes that he's worn out his welcome at the university, which is just like, okay. But the U.S. Department of Agriculture was established under Lincoln in 1862, and this was when America was still a very largely agrarian nation, and its primary mission at the time was to support the farmers. Now, so that's kind of a little bit of background. It's 1883 when Wiley accepts a role at the Department of Ag's chemistry department. It's this tiny little lab in the basement. He likes
It's
basement
exactly as
labs.
I imagined it. I
Right,
was like, yep, it could be this like little corner in the basement. Yep.
right. Now, prior to Wiley coming, they didn't investigate a whole lot. And a lot of the investigations they had done had been really small ones around food. And Wiley wants to do this large scale study around the state of America's food.
Good for him.
Now, by the time he gets to DC, people are already pissed off at him. Now he ends up with a little bit more money than he'd had previously. He's got a wider reach, and so he starts targeting the dairy industry.
Good.
Now, remember the swill milk scandal?
Yeah.
Okay, so diving a little bit deeper, we have these city dwellers that can't afford fresh milk. There's no widespread refrigeration. So even though we started pasteurizing milk in the 1960s, they're doing what they can.
1860s?
1860s, thank you. They're doing what
I'm
they can.
imagining the 50s milkman and thinking that milk wasn't pasteurized.
No, thankfully, Louis Pasteur was a bit ahead of that. Um, I ended up learning that the standard formula for milk was to add a pint of warm water to the quart of every milk. And then to get rid of that bluish tint, you'd add the whitening agents. Now, people are used to having a little bit of cream at the top, and so you would need to add something yellowish, like a dollop of pureed calf brain.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. It was at this point in the documentary, my daughter paused, looked at me, and said, Mom, can we watch something, anything else? I kind of never want to drink milk again.
She's not wrong.
Now, as
And
I
you're like, but you and I were Sally Forth.
Meanwhile, Angie, here's the next paragraph. Um, so in New York City, because you couldn't really transport milk in and they have very limited space, they put a cow barn immediately next to the brewery. They would shackle the cow to a spot, kind of suspend it from like kind of a hammock from the ceiling to where it really couldn't move and give it the swill. The swill
Gross.
from the breweries being so bad for the cows that it's really bad.
It's just really bad.
Their teeth would fall out, like rot out of their mouths. And it's at this point we need to remember that New York City is packed with tenement houses. It's jam-packed with people. There's no milk refrigeration. The milk is sold warm in buckets.
In buckets
In buckets.
with like a lid?
I cannot confirm or deny. I don't know.
I'm not imagining there's a lid. I'm gonna be honest. There's no lid.
Right.
Because why would there be?
I mean, lids are expensive. We can't pay for lids.
No, we can't. That's gross. I'm gross. I'm so grossed out right now.
Lids would keep the formaldehyde out. We can't have lids.
The formaldehyde out. Ew.
Now, this is all happening. Thousands of kids are dying every year just because of milk. Without regulation, there's no laws that are broken. So this is a win-win for companies. And if there's no laws that are broken, then no one is held responsible for the death of these thousands of kids that kick off every year.
Right, because no law means that no crime was
Right.
committed. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But milk isn't the only problem. Butter is also sometimes this thing called oleomargarine, which is made up of the unprocessed scraps of meat packers. And the only indicator that butter is butter in quotation marks is that it's cheaper. Sometimes it might be called butterine, which really sounds like an old-timey name of somebody's grandmother.
I like it.
Yeah,
Buttering.
this
I'm
is
not eating
butterine.
it, but it's cute.
Yeah, Butterine and Olivet went down to the store and got their hair done afterward.
Got their hair did.
But the problem is that government seems to think buttering is egregious. So meat packers struck back saying that this is a smear campaign and it's based off of farmers' panic, and they accuse Congress of stifling the process forward in food manufacturing. Either way, the Butter Act passes in 1886, but this doesn't do a damn thing for milk production.
Right. I'm just over here imagining that this is the point when the Irish were like, our butter is real.
Yeah.
And Irish butter becomes the best butter on the planet.
Yeah, that's when Kerrygold came out and just took the market by force.
Yep.
So, meanwhile, back in Wiley's lab, he's testing everything. Coffee ends up being a mixture of mud, chicory, and ash,
So like almost no coffee in there at all.
basically. Um,
Okay.
Canned beans have dangerous preservatives that end up making the beans like a fluorescent green because they're trying to make the beans look fresher. And Wiley realizes that his published papers are only being read by other scientists. So he takes his reports and he kind of gets them translated for the common
Okay.
man. And the person who translates them goes hard. He calls them evil practices and, quote, reckless disregard of food practices.
You know what?
Like,
I'm laughing because he's right. And here's the thing, the amount of money that they've spent trying to figure out how to make things stay looking better, they could have spent, I don't know, trying to just make healthy food.
they could. They could.
Yeah.
And once you start calling, like, once he uses a lot of this inflammatory language, the news takes off.
Good.
Now, his bosses get a little irked. They threaten to cancel his next study.
Oh no.
They don't, but his budget gets cut. And then his requests for additional supplies get ignored or delayed.
Mm.
Now, this same year, his parents pass away and he starts falling into a depression. He's single, he's having a rough go, work isn't going so well. He walks into the library at the USDA and he sees this librarian who's 30 years younger than him, and he falls immediately in love.
Okay.
He courts her, he proposes, and she turns him down.
Oh, devastating.
Now, he keeps her photo in his watch and doubles down on his work.
Okay.
And
I like
here's
him so far.
he's honestly he's a good man. Now the Spanish American War kicks off in 1898.
That is not a sentence I thought I was going to hear this morning.
No. Um, and this proved difficult for meat packers because they sign contracts like, hey, we want the lucrative government contract to ship meat to our soldiers in Cuba. But then the soldiers start complaining of the rotted canned meat that reeks of formaldehyde.
Oh, so we know what formaldehyde smells like. Okay.
But the army's like, no, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And the public becomes outraged. Now, this becomes known as the embalmed meat scandal.
Okay. I I'm here for a good scandal. This is not the scandal I signed up for.
Yeah, whenever you hear meat scandal, you kind of hope of a different word in front of it.
Honestly.
Congress ends up holding meetings on this meat. Theodore Roosevelt ends up testifying, and he recalled watching a soldier throw away the meat because he couldn't eat it. So Teddy's like, well, I'll try it. He tries it. It's awful. He couldn't eat it, and it was covered in green slime.
Not a chance.
So Wiley starts testing canned meat from around the country, and he can't find any formaldehyde, but it is comprised of just meat scraps, and it's encased in this watery fat, and much of it had decomposed already.
Oh, I'm so grossed out.
And he decides, you know what, we need to hold these industries accountable. Now, the industries, because we've been like this for a while, they lobby Congress because they are rich and powerful, and this stalls everything. So Wiley decides he's got to get creative. He decides he's got to test food additives on people to see/show the effects of these chemicals. And he decides he wants to assemble a group of volunteers. He wants to feed them 3 meals a day, poisoned with the additive of his choice, and track the results. And so
Okay.
he goes to Congress and he petitions to do the quote hygienic table trials. And Congress has no idea what the hell that means. So they give him $5,000, not really paying attention to what he's going to do with it because they're like, hygienic table trials, go for it.
Sounds fun.
I
Can we
know.
come to dinner also?
So he puts out like an all call for these robust men. He wants men ideally work in government. He wants typically athletic men as well. He's offering them free food and $5 a month. Now, I think about the time the average person is making about 20 bucks. So he's like, look, you work in the government, you're not earning a hell of a lot. Let me give you $5 and I'll give you all of your meals. You can't eat outside of this. Um, and you have to agree to do all of our tests, but we'll take care of you. He gets 12 well, he settles on 12 volunteers. He gets an overwhelming response because they're like
Okay.
a hint of danger and free food.
Yes.
And they all feel like, when you're young, you're in your 20s,
You're
you're like,
invincible.
exactly. So they're like,
Yeah.
sign me up, coach.
Yeah. Put me in.
So he builds a restaurant in the basement of the Department of Agriculture. He ends up bringing in a literal chef. And then he realizes, I've got to source real food because all the food I could just pick up at the store is tainted. So he goes through to
Right.
all the manufacturers and like hawkishly sources everything
Okay.
because he wants to be the only one put doping the food. Now, 1902, his restaurant opens with a sign over the door that says, "None but the brave can eat the fare."
Love that. Also, will not be dining at the Department of Agriculture's restaurant.
Nope. He decides to start with borax. Now, borax you can buy today. It
Right.
is
Laundry soap.
yeah, exactly. It's a cleaning agent, but at the time it was also a food preservative.
Ew.
Now, he decides to break them into two groups, the control group and the test subjects. And he starts lacing the
Okay.
food. Twice a week, these men are checked out by a doctor. Their stool is tested. Every stool is collected, by the way. He's testing everything he could. So they're breathing through a tube for 3 hours through this concoction to catch their particulates coming out of their lungs. He's collecting
Okay.
their perspiration. He's collecting urine, everything you can think of. He's taking it all because he doesn't know what he's going to find.
Okay. Good for him.
And then he's also told the men they're not allowed to identify themselves as part of the trial. He wants to keep this under wraps.
Okay.
Now, word of the trial gets out, and reporters are trying their damnedest to get information about the men eating poison for the United States. When they can't get information, they start making stuff up. They start publishing articles like, the men are trying borax and they've got healthier looking pink skin.
This feels like the media. Good job,
Yeah,
media.
it's so bad that he's getting letters from housewives saying, what is the formula of borax I should be using for healthy looking skin?
Of course he is. Mm-hmm.
Now, the press eventually dubs these men the Poison Squad.
Love this.
And the tabloids refer to Harvey Wiley as old borax. Now, this
Okay.
is the first time the country's talking about food safety. And they slowly become the face of this movement, right? Like you've got cartoons, poems, and songs that are just flooding popular imagination.
I love this so much, and I'm so glad that the Poison Squad isn't a squad of people that are out poisoning people.
Aqua Tofana is what I'll tell you next week. Um,
Thanks.
you're welcome. Meanwhile, he's slowly increasing the amount of borax in the food, and men are beginning to struggle with intestinal difficulty. Some are vomiting, fevers, things like they're losing weight, they can't put weight on, like there's problems. Only half of the men survive to the last round of testing. I shouldn't say survive. Nobody dies, but half of them bow out.
Okay. Okay.
Now, once they finish that, he publishes his finding on borax, and the public starts questioning everything about their eating. And Wiley is
Good.
now incredibly against food preservatives. He thought borax was going to be mildly
Yeah, I was gonna
upsetting.
say like a small problem.
Right. Like, we started off small. We're not going to arsen it quite yet.
Right.
So food manufacturers strike back at Wiley hard. And they're in the press, they're just doing the whole smear campaign. They're calling him anti-business. Even Teddy Roosevelt, who's now a president, he's bowed out of pushing the legislation through. He's a little leery of this. So Wiley drops back. He's trying to find better allies. In 1904, he starts to rethink his approach and he partners with the women's rights movement.
Okay.
because it's the women he realizes who are doing a bulk of the purchasing in homes, and they're the ones in charge of the meal prep and the meal thing. So this matters to them. They care about their families. So they're
Right.
the right people to team up with. And they don't want to buy food that's going to poison their loved ones. So he gets them
Typically,
entrenched in their movement.
that's awesome.
They start a letter writing campaign and they basically become his army and they adopt his work as part of their progressive agenda.
Yes. The right to vote and for good meat. I'm here for it.
Yep. Fanny Farmer, do you know her?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm thinking it only sounds familiar from the USDA loan, the Fannie Mac.
Fanny Mac is different. Fanny Farmer,
Yeah.
she was a cookbook writer.
Okay.
Now, this is at a time when women can't go to school, but she's writing cookbooks that read similar to chemistry books.
Okay.
Here's why you combine these things. Here's how this happens. Here's the science behind the food.
That's awesome.
Okay. And so she starts throwing her support behind Wiley. She's the largest cookbook writer at the time, and she's called out the use of food additives.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Henry J. Heinz, he sees the tide turning on food preservatives, and so he starts innovating his ketchup recipe.
Okay. I can get
He,
behind this. I don't like ketchup, but that works for me.
yep, he realizes that he could rely on vinegar to kill bacteria and make it shelf stable. And he advertises his product as pure, crafted by workers that were, quote, manicured maidens clad in white.
Oh.
Yeah.
For ketchup. Okay.
So, food made in the cleanest factories and branded at pure, this is what the public wants. And so we can see how forward-looking companies can read the writing on the wall and see how regulations will lead to better profits.
Okay.
And so people like Heinz are like, you know what? We're pure food.
Got it.
Yep. So we go back and forth with the Poison Squad and their testing. Roosevelt realizes that women are likely going to get the vote, and women are 100% behind pure food and drug regulation. So, December 1905, he puts in his support for food regulation in his address to Congress.
Love this.
This is just in time because there's another beef scandal.
Ew.
Upton Sinclair, he worked undercover for 2 months in the meat industry and he ends up publishing a book called The Jungle. And this is about just chock full of health violations. He documents rat infestations, human appendages finding their way into food, and inhumane practices, among so many things.
Cool.
Sinclair is quoted and said, or in saying, I aimed for the public's heart, but I hit its stomach instead.
Sure did. Sure did, buddy.
Now, Roosevelt sends his team to investigate if Sinclair's report's correct. As they're investigating, they see a cow fall into a latrine. It's pulled out, not washed off, and processed.
No, thank you.
So his summary of the report hits the New York Times and it calls the American food industry rotten to its core.
Uh, Fair, honestly.
And Roosevelt pushes for a food regulation, like for a bill for food regulation. And Wiley defends the bill for 2 days in Congress in this dramatic testimony. And in the documentary, they talk about how Wiley was able to bring that influence from his father's evangelical preaching
Mm-hmm.
and basically like lean into the showmanship side of it.
I knew that was what it was gonna be. I knew it as soon as you said that. I was like, oh, he's gonna be the showman. Like this is how it works.
Yep. This results in Roosevelt demanding legislation on his desk immediately, or he'll threaten to release the complete investigation if Congress continues to stall. Now, it's stalling because we have these industry titans lobbying Congress.
Okay, but that's the second time in like 2 weeks that you have mentioned a president that actually did something right.
Roosevelt sat on it for a while. I mean, he's the one who couldn't eat the potted meat.
Yeah, but he was like, listen, if you don't actually fix this, I'm gonna release all the findings out to the press. Like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, strong arm what you got to.
Mm-hmm.
This is what's resulting in the Food and Drug Act and Meat Inspection Act and getting it to pass. It's June 30th, 1906 that Roosevelt signs them into law.
Okay.
These are the first consumer protection laws in American history, and this happened just 4 months after the Jungle's publication. Wiley
That
had
could
been
have,
working at this for years and years and years.
I was gonna say that could have stand have happened a little earlier for Wiley's sake.
Well, it could have, but I mean, I think he laid the full groundwork. It was on his
Yeah.
reports that all of this was laid out.
Yeah. I would
You
agree.
know, it was just that was the tipping point.
Good for him.
I will say the bill, and this line shocked me, had complete bipartisan support.
Wow. I bet you that's the only one.
But yeah,
That's wow.
that's the story of Harvey Wiley and the founding of the FDA.
Okay, so I have to ask, did you wake up earlier this week and choose violence and think, ooh, it's been a minute since I ruined her appetite?
I mean, honestly, what it was is like I had heard brief snippets of the Poison Squad, and it had been on my list at the bottom of my list because a lot of things had come before it and left, and I just needed to cross it off.
Hmm. I'm still gonna eat today because I'm freaking starving. I guarantee you milk is not on the agenda.
But ketchup could be.
No, ketchup is not. I am a barbecue sauce connoisseur.
Okay.
Yeah. No. For the longest time, we didn't ever even buy ketchup. Our kids didn't know what ketchup was until they started school. Um, we have it, we keep it now because our youngest son's best friend loves ketchup, and another one of our friends loves ketchup. So we just make sure we always have it in case they're here for dinner or whatever. Yeah,
That's sweet
but
of you.
no, we try to cater to those we love.
Meanwhile, I try to assault those I love with the stories I tell.
That's so funny that you say that because earlier I was thinking she only abuses the people she loves, and she must love me.
With a passion, with a fierce, unending passion.
I s- Thank you. Thank you for showing it in your own special way.
Yeah, I'm the school bully dipping your pigtails in inkwells.
Thank you for that. I really wanted the ombre hair anyway.
Yeah, I do what I
Yeah.
can. If you've enjoyed my onslaught against food or want to just replay this tomorrow when you're really thinking about that second slice of cheesecake, rate, review, subscribe, send this to somebody else who maybe should learn about the founding of the FDA. Also, email us story ideas at unhinged.historypod@gmail.com. Maybe you've got something that would be equally as appetizing. And on that note, goodbye.
Bye.
Where'd you go? I
Sorry.
miss you so.
I wasn't trying to not make you talk. I
You
was
just
just
Irish goodbyed me.
I did. But I came right back, so it wasn't a full Irish goodbye.